Margaret, I'd like to welcome Minister Naughton to the House, and she has a very, very difficult and challenging job, as many in government have. But the aviation industry, given the fact that we're an island nation, is critical. And I do believe that we are behind the curve of other European countries in terms of putting cash into our airline industry. But there are so many other areas of aviation that have been affected, not just the direct aviation industry, and those are the associated companies. Aviation and Shannon Airport, but particularly aviation, has been extremely good to the Midwest over the last 50 years. The boom we saw in the 60s, 70s and even in the 80s in the Midwest was largely due to Shannon Airport and the associated companies that located and employed people in Shannon simply because of its proximity to an international airport. Out of those companies, we have seen very world-leading aviation companies, particularly in the area of aviation leasing. We are the #1 in the world in terms of a gold standard aviation leasing industry. There are thousands of people working, not just in the Midwest, but companies developed in the Midwest that have spread throughout the country, including Dublin, that are working in aviation leasing and are leasing aircrafts and doing deals and have done deals all over the length and breadth of the world. Those companies are finding it extremely difficult, and unfortunately, because of the world crash in aviation, those companies are in a very perilous situation, and a lot of the employees are very concerned about their jobs going forward. I think we need a master plan in terms of not just the airline industry, but aviation in general. There's absolutely no reason why, going forward, Ireland cannot not just maintain, but develop itself as a leader in aviation-associated companies and industries, not just in leasing, but in terms of training, aircraft engineering, in terms of pilot training and so on. What I want to see going forward, Cathaoirleach and Minister, are two things. One, a blueprint and a plan for the aviation industry, getting it over the pandemic, but then growing going forward into what it has been and what it potentially can be going forward. But also, I think that the notion of one airport in this country competing against another airport, that day has to go. And I do support the proposals from the Transport Committee of the Oireachtas that we set up an overall a single airports authority in this country. I was always sceptical about the proposal and breaking up the airports, as happened in Shannon, being made an independent of Dublin and Cork. I know the industry and business sectors in the region supported it at the time. It probably did need to be tried out, but I do believe that going forward, we need to bring Shannon into, along with Dublin and Cork, into one entity, and that entity then should be properly funded so as all three airports can prosper going forward.